Hi, I'm Sarah from Crafty Sew&So, and I also develop the patterns for my Handmade Wardrobe patterns. We've just moved into a new studio, which is fantastic, and it means that we can do lots more of these kind of videos. It's a private studio, so we're not going to be interrupting anybody, which is great, and it means that I hopefully can hop on and do these kind of sew-alongs, shares, and just basically show my face a lot more. So I thought I'd do something a bit different for me today. The other day, as Zareen and I were working together and putting the swatch list packs for April together, we had a sew-along in the background by Devon Threadtails, and it was really, really nice just to kind of have a little insight into how somebody else makes a pattern. So yeah, I thought it might be quite interesting for you to see how I take a pattern that I've already developed and make it up and kind of test it out, really, because the pattern making process obviously involves lots and lots of sampling and testing and trial and error. So yeah, I'm going to take you on that journey with me today, and I hope you'll enjoy coming along. Right. So today I am making a zip through hoodie, and it's a pattern that we developed for Love Sewing magazine, and we create these patterns kind of in almost like beta form without a lot of testing. They're based on our basic blocks, but then we, after publishing them in the magazine, we then take them on and develop them further, test them, add details, and just basically like push the boundaries a bit more with them and get them into really quite interesting, unique patterns with lots and lots of variation. That's one of our big key focuses, is providing lots and lots of ways for you to make the patterns your own way and put your own stamp on them. So for the magazine, I made the hoodie in actually similar to what I'm wearing now. I'm not wearing the hoodie, but I made it in this pink French terry with the purple as the hood lining. And today I'm going to make it all in a sweat fabric, so it's a lovely lightweight brushed back sweat. And then I'm going to line the hood with this gorgeous organic single jersey. Forgot what it was called then, which has got a good stretch to it. They've both got good stretches to them, actually. This one has got like quite a bit of stretch and a decent return, so it will ping back on itself. This has got loads of stretch and return, so it's going to be interesting to see how the different fabrics react as we put them through the machine and merge them together. That's always an interesting point. It's got some pockets. I have chosen to do the pockets in the self fabric and in the jersey. So part of the pocket bag is in self fabric, part of it is in the jersey. So that will be, again, a little bit of an experiment to see how that works. The idea is that using the self fabric will make it a little bit more stable and stop the pockets from flopping, because you don't want floppy pockets that are kind of falling down below the hem. I'm going to be mostly sewing it on the overlocker. Now, this sample I made on the sewing machine, so we might just get to a point where I just go, wait a minute, this isn't working on the overlocker, and I have to revert back to the sewing machine. But like I said, I'm going to take you on this journey of exploration and pattern development, and yeah, hopefully you'll find it quite interesting, like I do. Okay. So to start off with, I am putting together the hood. So I didn't have any yellow overlocking thread. Well, I had one yellow thread. So what I've decided to do is to put yellow on my left hand needle, because that's the one that kind of shows in the seam. So when we just open up this seam, you can see there's only yellow thread that shows through. And then I've decided to use a variety of kind of purpley maroons to tie in with the other fabric that I'm using for the rest of the spools. And this just, I don't know, it's a fun way of adding a bit of colour to the inside of the garment as well. I could have just gone for white to begin with. I just pulled out white, but it's a bit boring really, isn't it? So let's yeah, make it a bit more exciting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and join the lining of the hoods, and I'm using a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance for all my stitching here. So, oh, whoops. I always find with these overlockers, the lead isn't quite long enough if you push the overlocker away, so I always get a little bit of a jolt when you get started. Right, so I'm going to go a bit gung-ho here and not actually pin anything, partly because I'm quite experienced with overlocking and I know what, having made the pattern, I know how the pieces should go together, but also because in the move we're still halfway through and we haven't actually moved over the pins yet. So I've got about 10 pins here and no wonder clips as well. I like to use wonder clips when I use the overlocker. So yeah, I'm just going to go for it and use my judgment. When I get to about halfway along, I just want to make sure that my ends are going to match up and I haven't been stretching anything as I've been going. There's no point in getting to kind of near the end and then realising that, because it's too late by then. Love the overlocker. Makes everything so neat and finished and together so quickly. Right, so that's my 2 hood pieces, and we'll pop those aside for a minute. Don't need those just at the moment. And then, now I think this might be a point actually where I need to switch to my sewing machine. So, just thinking it through. Attach the pockets to the front and the back, and I need to sew up to a very precise point. So yeah, it's not going to work on the overlocker. So I'll just grab my sewing machine, get that set up, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I've got my sewing machine set up now, and I'm going to start by taking the back panel of the hoodie, and now I want the outside of the pocket bags when they're inside the garment to be the jersey fabric. I want that to show, so it's all nice and pretty, but I want it to show on the inside of the pocket. So I'm going to put them right side facing, but I'm going to put them on the back. So I'm going to attach those to the back. I've got myself some nice little notches. Let's see. Yeah, I also realised that the notches were not quite in the right place on the back, so that's been fixed. So yeah, as I'm developing a pattern, that would be really useful to have these videos as well as we go along. But as I'm developing a pattern, I tend to keep a notebook next to me, and I'll just write down any like changes that I find as I'm going along. And just keep a note of those, and then when it comes to actually develop the pattern into the finished pattern with all the design details and everything, then I can check back on that for all the little details. So yeah, that's quite handy to have. Right, at this point I do need to find my few pins, so I'll just go and grab those. It's funny, in this new studio, the first thing that I wanted to do when I got in here was sew, and I think that's got to be a good thing. It's got to be a good sign, because yeah, it's just, I think when you feel happy in a place, you feel inspired, and you feel like you want to do the thing that you love. And yeah, I definitely feel like good things are going to happen here. So just pinning. I've already met some of the other people that work in the studio next door, and they are just lovely, really, really lovely people. So I'm very excited about getting to know them a little better. Obviously, it's a bit tricky at the moment with all the restrictions and everything, but you know, as things ease up, we can spend a bit more time together, get to know each other. Yeah, I found some wonder clips, hooray! So that's going to make this whole thing a lot easier. Okay, so next thing I'm doing is I'm going to sew just down from the pocket, on the pocket opening, so from the top to the bottom. I'm going to backstitch at both of those ends. Now when on my machine, I'm doing a stretch stitch, which I'm going to do to join everything together. I can't backstitch, it doesn't have the option. The stitch just defaults to not backstitching. So what I tend to do is I switch onto my straight stitch, centered. I do a few back stitches. And then I change to my stretch stitch. Oh. Sew all the way down. Now I'm just going to check what's going on, because doesn't sound 100%, and machines don't really like being moved very much, so it's always good if it's not sounding great and there's a reason why it might not be 100%. It's always good to check that everything is looking right. Let's see where we go from there. Yeah, it just sounds a bit clunky. We shall see. Okay. Oh no, that seems to be fine now. Okay. And then I'll do my back stitch. Oh no. When you do back stitch, you have to actually press the back stitch button. It does help. Okay, let's look at that stitch. Yeah, it's all looking good. Lovely, nothing to worry about there. Okay, so on to the other side. You have to excuse me, I do make some strange noises when I am sewing, especially when I'm developing a pattern. I don't know what's going on. I do chunter away. Right, straight stitch. All the way down. I'm thinking this isn't my usual machine actually. It's weird, you get a feel for what your machine feels like, and this doesn't feel quite like my normal machine. So I think this might be the other spare machine that we have had in the studio. Yes. So I have to set it up with all my own settings. Become quite specific about what I expect of my machine. Right, so I've got my back with my pockets joined. Ta-da! And I need to find my front. There it is. Okay, you can tell it's the front because it's split into two, because it's going to have a zip inserted. And then I need to find my pocket facings, pocket bags even. Pin this in, top and bottom. That's one, and then the other. Oh, this fabric is so soft, it's lovely. I think if I remember correctly, it's a cotton polyester elastane mix, and it's that polyester that makes it really nice and soft. The only thing is, with polyester you do get pilling, so it's just a case of kind of being prepared for that. It's the way up that you get for the softness. And then obviously it's a little bit more lofty, and polyester just naturally pills a little bit more as well. So I'll have to get my debobbler out, I think. But let's not worry about that at the moment. Okay. Okay, that's 3 of 4 pocket bags. And last one. Okay, so that's my pocket bags attached. I'm just going to walk that through. So that pocket bag will go on the inside like that, and then the back pocket bag will just go on top of that, and that will work perfectly. And then I've got a really nice soft feel to the inside of the pockets as well. So yeah, it's going to be beautiful. Right, so next up I am going to join the front to the back at the side seams, or I could just follow the instructions that I have written, but I'm going to make things, to be honest, I haven't actually brought my laptop with me to work today because I decided that I just wanted to concentrate on sewing, so I haven't actually got the instructions to hand, so you get to help me make up the instructions as we go along, or at least try and remember what I'd written before. Yeah, so there's 2 options here. I could join the side seams, so the front to the back at the side seams. I could join the front to the back at the shoulder seams. So I'm going to join the front to the fronts to the back at the shoulder seams, I think. Okay, matching my little notch at the top there. That's handy, I'm glad I decided to put that in. I can use my wonder clips, and actually I can go back to my overlocker, but just thinking it through, and this is something that I always try and think about when I'm designing a pattern, is grouping activities, so you're not constantly having to like keep chopping and changing what you're doing. And I can join the shoulder seams with the overlocker, but the side seams, because I need to sew up to the pocket bag and no further without cutting through the fabric, they need to be sewn on the sewing machine. So because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the side seams first on the sewing machine, and then I'm going to switch out to my overlocker, and then I can sew those and I can finish off the side seams as well at that point. Although actually going back, I want to put the sleeves in on the flat, so I can't do that. Okay, you can see how my brain works when I'm kind of muddling all the process through. So yeah, so actually I'm going to have to just get the overlocker out, because the shoulder seams have to be joined if you want to insert a sleeve. So yeah, I'm going to do that. Bear with me. big problem about changing your machines is all the wires, I think, and I've got my mic wire as well. I've actually got a wireless mic, but in the move I haven't managed to locate it just yet, so that will make it a lot easier next time. Won't be fighting with the wires. Right, so I'm going to join my fronts to my back, yeah, at the shoulder seams. Whoops, wrong pedal, wrong pedal. That's the right one. Okay. In all this haste, I must make sure that I don't do the wrong seam allowance. Actually, whenever you move your overlocker, it's always a good idea just to straighten out your threads again, because sometimes they can get a bit twisted when you move the overlocker. Check that. Seems to be fine. Good. Excuse me. I do usually have music on when I'm sewing. I thought it'd be a bit distracting, so. So yeah, no music today. Just the music going round and round in my head that I might start humming if you're not careful. Right, so shoulder seams are joined. That means that I've got the option now of attaching the hoods or the sleeves. So if I attach the hoods, I've got to join those together. That probably will work best on the sewing machine. Whereas the sleeve, it's a flat sleeve, it doesn't have any gathering, so that should go in fairly neatly and cleanly. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the sleeve in now. I can do that straight off on the overlocker. I mean, if you are new to overlocking, I would always say anything that involves like a curve, or if you're at all unsure, just base stitch it in on your sewing machine first. I mean, unpicking overlocking is actually a lot easier than it seems. Basically, if you want to unpick overlocking, you just pull out the stitching threads, so the two threads that are the needle threads. You just pull those out and everything else just unravels. So you can just go along with a stitch ripper and just every like 5 or 6 stitches you can just cut those stitch threads. So yeah, that's quite a quick way of doing it, but it's still a pain, so something that we don't really want to do. And then of course you've cut all your edges off as well, so it can get a bit complicated. You can get a bit confused with where you've got up to really with that. Okie dokie. So first thing I've spotted is that my notches don't match up perfectly. So once I've clipped all this together, I'll just pop that down in my notebook, just to give myself a reminder of what I need to check. They're about 1 centimetre out basically, so if I just bring them into the centre, then they will all match up. Find the right section. Okay, so I've clipped my sleeve in place, and I'm just going to sew that in. Now the curve of the seam on this, it's a dropped shoulder seam, so it's not massively curved. You're not working with like a hugely convex and concave curve, so it goes together pretty nicely without too many pins or clips or anything. Still just want to take your time. And the key is to just, when you're overlocking, just keep checking what's going on underneath as well. Like if it feels chunky, stop, because it is chunky. I think I rely on my fingers and the feeling of everything a lot more than, well, obviously my eyes as well, but the way things feel, especially with overlocking, is definitely very important. One sleeve in. Just check how everything's looking. Nothing's looking too loose, or no, all looking good. Okay. I really like the purple. Yeah, I think that looks, it makes a nice contrast. I always like the inside of my garments to look nice. Most of the time it's only me that sees them, but you know, why shouldn't I treat myself to nice looking insides? So another thing that I'm just checking at the moment is that the seams are going the same way. I mean, it's a small thing, doesn't massively matter if it's not, if you don't get it right, but it's just a nice thing to double check on. My husband's got my daughter today, and yeah, we had a busy day yesterday, running around the garden all day, and she slept very well last night, but probably means that she'll be full of beans again today. Yeah, so on Saturdays, my husband tends to have my look after our daughter. Why do I do that? Our daughter. So that I can come in and, yes, he works normal, like 9 to 5 job. And I tend to do kind of a few days in the week and then weekends as well as teaching, but also coming in and sample sewing as well. So, yeah, it's a nice day for me today to be able to do that. I mean, I love spending time with her, I really do, but just nothing like, you know, having a bit of your own time to make you really appreciate spending time with others as well. Right, so I've put my 2 sleeves in, so they went in really nicely, just lovely and smooth. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my 2 hoods together, which again I can do with my overlocker. So I'm going to take my outer hood and my inner hood, turn my inner hood the right way out, and then match them at that back seam. And I'm just going to nest those seams, so basically that means putting one seam going one way, one seam going the other, and then butting the seam join up together. So I want that to be nice and neat. Okay. Now I'm going to use a pin, but I'm going to remember to take it out as I go around with the overlocker. Yeah, pins and overlockers are not the best of friends. Right, here's the point that I realised that I'm trying to attach the wrong bit to the wrong bit. Let's have a look. Does this work? Nope, I am trying to attach the wrong bit together. Okay, so if I just move my overlocker out of the way, I think, yeah, that's it. Make sure that they both look the same, and then insert one inside the other. I think sometimes we can all do that. We like hold the fabric pieces up in the air and just look at them, kind of puzzling ourselves more than, you know, helping ourselves. And sometimes you just need to lay them down on the table, look at what you've got, check it looks the same, or make it look the same, and then put it together. Okay. I'm so glad I found these wonder clips. It's just that little extra helping hand just to keep everything together, and just means I'm not having to guess at all. Especially when working with stretchy fabrics. I mean, there's always a chance that one's gonna stretch more than the other. I'm already finding that the sweat fabric is stretching a little bit more and staying stretched than the single jersey fabric. So that's an interesting thing to note, and something to put in my little write-up about the pattern, or perhaps do a blog post on. So I always like to add extra content, and it's always when I'm sewing the samples that I kind of think about what else can be added. Okay. So I'm going to sew the 2 hood outer and hood lining together. So I always find when I am sewing seams on the overlocker, because the overlocker foot is quite strong, it tends to flip them the other way. So just lift up the presser foot and use a pin just to kind of coerce the seam back into where you want it to be. I don't know if you can see this, but there's like a kind of snake of all the trims that have come off the overlocker, and that always makes me it makes me a bit nervous actually, because I'm like, oh my goodness, have I cut off the right amount? I really hope so. But yeah, it also makes me quite happy because yes, it's just quite enjoyable, this strips of fabric. Right, so I've got my hood outer and lining joined. Oh yeah, that is a nice seam join. A tiny bit off, but not too bad. I'm quite happy with that. Yep. And right. Now there is one thing that I've just realised I have forgotten to do, which I would need to do before I do anything further, which is to put a buttonhole in the hood. So that's going to be the next thing that I'll do. I'm actually going to stop recording now because I need to go home and spend some time with the baby and my husband as well. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little kind of insight into me making up one of the samples for a pattern that I'm developing. If you have, please like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm planning to do lots more of these. I'll try and do some full sew-alongs as well, although they might be quite long, quite detailed, so I should say. And I do drivel on quite a bit, but hopefully that's what you've come here for. So yeah, I will see what you guys want me to do a sew-along on. Pop any comments that you have down in the comments box. And yeah, I'm going to just spend the next 10 minutes I've got left just making a buttonhole. I'm going to put some interfacing on the inside to stop the fabric stretching when I make my buttonhole, and then hopefully have time just to pop the hood on and then call it a day. Pick it up again on Tuesday or Thursday, I think. So yeah, if you're doing some sewing this weekend, happy sewing, have a great time, and hopefully I will see you again soon. Bye for now.